And our next presenter is going to be Carol. She's going to be talking to us about how we can best help sort out all of our volunteer needs.
Okay. Oh wait, I'm back. You did it in presentation mode. I usually do slideshow. Okay. All right. Sorry. Logistics. Welcome everybody, and I know some of you have been very involved in volunteer coordination. Some may be looking for tips, which we can all share later. But I've been event director up at Traps for many races, and had a volunteer coordinator work under me. And last January, I was at the World University Games as volunteer coordinator. So I've been on both sides of the fence. One of the event director's critical job for success, which probably should come in as you place your bid or shortly thereafter, is to recruit your crew chiefs. And what I consider the key crew chiefs are the chief of course, chief of stadium, race secretary, chief of timing, and what I'm going to talk about, the volunteer coordinator. So these crew chiefs are among some who will become your team leaders, and they can help instruct and oversee the volunteers that are assigned to the particular team task that they are charged with. And delegation is, effective delegation will help lower the event director, competition director's stress, hopefully on race day. But the team crew chiefs will work hand in hand with the event director, chief of comp. So like at Lake Placid, there was a software program that was pretty involved, but because there were so many volunteers under all the different sports, this program Volunteer Local was used. But for our level races, a spreadsheet is very effective. I don't have a pointer. Oh wait, I do have a pointer. Okay, so NENESA, under the website, if you go to the resources page, and then you go to event organizers, you come up with this event organizer and TV resource list, and then under the volunteer list example is a template for Eastern Cup jobs, but you can consolidate that or customize it for any race. So in this spreadsheet, this is the jobs that the event director should try to fill themselves. And then the volunteer coordinator will be the one, you'll see it in the future spreadsheet, the more race day tasks. So the volunteer coordinator's role is to find and seek people to fill positions. The skill requirements for the job are to be able to communicate in a friendly and clear manner multiple times and in many ways. Be organized in your communication, have an upbeat tone, and have patience. People volunteer to have fun, so you want to encourage that camaraderie. So your job is to keep in close touch, communicate with the event director to determine and fine-tune the number of volunteer positions needed, and you can update the event director with the status of who is signed up, and I'm short here, what should I do? And in turn, the event director can work with the TV and chief of course to also fine-tune where to place volunteers and what is needed. Volunteer recruitment. So it's super important if you're a host site to have collaboration with a local ski club. It helps the ski club to have an identity. The host site, it's a symbiotic relationship that is pretty key for a successful race. Some of the small clubs may not have enough volunteers, so expand your request to other area clubs. Like in Stowe, we had good volunteers, but we go to Craftsbury, and sometimes Fort Air would offer volunteers. So people like to, be part of the team. So you can advertise the event and need for volunteers in local newspapers or like a front porch forum format. Email event participants on volunteer opportunities, like through Ski Reg. You can say, have a way for someone, like if say in the event notes, contact such and such if you know somebody would like to volunteer. And kind of your last resort would be to recruit on site from the crowd of parents, spectators, or fans, and have the announcer like, come meet so-and-so at 9 o'clock because we need you volunteers. And also a very key thing is to have distinctive volunteer bibs so that you can identify the role of who is a volunteer and not just a spectator. Communication emails, a kind of series of what to do. So the initial request goes out to sign up, and at the end of my presentation, Fred's going to talk about a new NENESA Google form. What am I doing? Oh, thank you. And the volunteer coordinator gathers the information and fills in as a spreadsheet as the acceptances come in. Volunteer coordinator continues to communicate with the event director. The volunteer coordinator will answer individual questions on individual emails from the volunteers. Before the event, a communication will be sent out to confirm job assignments and times, and then you might get more emails back saying, oh, whoops, I can't do it, or I thought I was doing this. And then updates if there are any changes with, be it weather or course length changes. And then important is the thank you email after the event is over. And WhatsApp is another means of communication, which I've been part of the chain, but I haven't really used yet. But that's been used in events for communication during the race event days. Considerations to maximize volunteerism. So ways to do that, if you are clearly stating your beginning time and ending time slots, people may be willing to do more than one job. So like you could do setup and then timekeeping or bib distribution and then be a course monitor. But, to keep your volunteers from collapsing, in the same token, if the day is really long, then split the jobs into shifts like morning and afternoon or sprint qualification and sprint heats. So this is kind of looks like a daunting list perhaps from far away, but the more the merrier in getting a job done. But like maybe you could set up with 5 people instead of 8. But again, the more the merrier. And this is for an Eastern Cup and a race that isn't quite as high level would do less. So pretty much the timing things, Ed, right? Anyway, you can talk with Ed, like what do you need exactly for timing? Since he probably does every race on our calendar, almost. Okay. Yeah, monitors, you work with the event director on the TV will help where to place. Post-event, make sure people know that when the race is over, there's still work to be done. That's pretty important because people think, oh, I'm going to go home. But get help for course and stadium breakdown, get the chips all sorted, the bibs sorted, and it's helpful to have an awards coordinator to hand manipulate the prizes so that they're handed out properly. Okay, that's just for mass start on Sunday. Okay, suggested flow for race day volunteers. So each job may have a different time schedule, whether you're set up or which would be earlier, but customize accordingly. What I have here is basically race day, on-course volunteers, kind of a flow of the day. That would be like course monitors, technique control, starters, timers, arrive at volunteer headquarters at least an hour before race start, check in with the volunteer coordinator, and it's important for the volunteer coordinator to assess who didn't show up, or if there's extra people, assign them or reassign as needed given the day if there have been changes to plans. The volunteer should obtain a bib or some form of identification, hopefully a lunch voucher or instructions on lunch if it's a full day event. And during that time, they can hang out, get coffee, maybe some snacks if you offer it, and socialize with other volunteers. Then have a volunteer meeting at a set time, like 45 minutes maybe before race start. And it's nice if the chief of comm can help welcome along with the volunteer coordinator, and the TD is present to give specific instructions and any other information they want to impart. And then most importantly, express sincere gratitude for their efforts to be there, and without them, the race would not happen. So after the general welcome, follow that by having the people go to their team leaders 30 to 45 minutes before the race start, and that's where they learn their assigned duties. You know, if you're on the timer A or chip distribution, and you get your tools, whatever that may be, radios, clipboards, and where you're going to be for your job. 15 to 30 minutes before race start, get ready to go out, use your toilet facilities, and gear up for the elements. And if you think you'll be out there for a while, have a backpack with water and maybe a snack, a pad to sit on if appropriate, or stand on if it's very cold. And then get where you need to be at least 10 minutes before you're supposed to be there. And then at your departure, check out with the volunteer coordinator and be sure to turn in your bib and not take it home because it may be used the next day. And then as you lay out the schedule for the day, is there time for a break between races? If you can schedule a race so that there is a lunchtime break for volunteers, that's great. Or have volunteer subs come in to take the person's place so that they can get some sustenance and warm up.
Carol, before you move on, just a couple points I want to emphasize on this. For your on-course volunteers in particular, if you have a very long course, like maybe 5K or 10K or longer even, factor in how long it might take them to walk or drive to where they need to get, for sure. Especially the venue that's really hilly, like a Lake Placid, for example. Like it might take them a solid 30 minutes to get to where they need to go. It all depends on time, snow conditions, etc. So do allow ample time for that. If you need to shift the schedule a little earlier, that's fine. As chief of course last year for university games, we had a lot of V-board and furbows and etc. to do. It was overkill. But that standpoint, like the 1 hour plus, a lot of emphasis on the plus. Like most days, we were starting about 3 hours before race start and finishing like 20 to 30 minutes before race start.
The most enjoyable 3 hours of my life.
It was fun, for sure, but it was a lot of work, so just plan accordingly. And the more volunteers you have that you can organize, the faster that's going to go, but as long as you're organized, you can give clear instructions. Cameron.
And also for places where if you have volunteers that are out in a very distant location, that they're either radioed or some communication so that they know when the race is over or when the last skier has come through, because a lot of times people are kind of stuck out there wondering what's going on.
Yeah. And if you have the option too, especially for your course people, put them out in pairs so they don't feel like they're there by themselves. Like give them a social outlet, if, like especially if it's a slow day and then we'll start and they're going by like every now and then, or especially even on mass start days where it's like you see 30 skiers in 2 minutes, and then you don't see more than like 10 for the next 50 minutes. Like those are important things for guaranteeing that these volunteers want to keep coming back and being part of what's going on. Other ways to make them happy experiences. Sam, did you have a comment?
Yeah. The other thing too is that when you're talking to your sponsors early on in the game, see if you can get some sort of enticement for the volunteers, some little gift for them from the sponsor.
We will be.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to keep going, and there is an opportunity to share more with my future slide. Okay, what do you do the day of the event if you don't have enough volunteers or can't get spectators to fill the gaps? And I did have like something like what Fred was saying, and I took it out because I was gearing it more to Eastern Cup and talking about World University Games, which was another level above. But even so, those points are well taken. Okay, so you can triage positions. You may have to work with the TV event director to figure out, okay, what can we not have? Like maybe you don't need as many course monitors. You can reassign people to more critical jobs if you have too many course monitors and you need timers, something like that. And you try to avoid it, but crew chiefs can step in to fill critical gaps as if needed. And you can, perhaps rely on your current volunteers to stay longer. They only signed up for 1 day. Hey, I had so much fun, I'm going to come back, or the classic phone a friend. Recipe for happy volunteers. Okay, physical provisions. Have a warm place to gather. During COVID, volunteers were operating out of their car, but it's just much more fun to be in a warm place with other people. Food, enticement, glorious food, perhaps some coffee and pastries upon arrival, and also your early setup people will need nourishment, or maybe not necessarily just pastries, but snacks that people can take out on course if they need to. Lunch is a huge benefit, and ski pass for the day. Hand and toe warmers are critical to provide volunteers. And spiritually, you're creating a community, be part of a team, and volunteers come. They come originally hoping to have fun, and they come back because they had fun and feel, the reward of a job satisfaction. Bonus rewards, if it's a big multi-day event or multiple events in a season, you could have a recognition party at the end of either that particular event or end of the season with food and drink and maybe a memento and or a raffle. We've done buffs or hats. We didn't go to sponsors, we paid for it. So anyway. But that's another idea, is go to sponsors to see what you could give to your volunteers. Okay, and if everyone had fun, you have happy volunteers.
Lucky Charms at the finish line.
Okay. Questions and discussion? Like, please share some of your own experience with volunteer coordinating, or what ideas you have to entice, recruit, or reward volunteers. And there's a lot of experience in this room, for sure. Peter.
Carol, I love the idea of having a meeting. You say an hour ahead of time, which is great.
Okay, let's say an hour and a half.
Call it an hour and a half, keep Fred happy. I think we've tended, and Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've tended to tell volunteers when they need to show up and where. But the advantage of what you're doing is, obviously, right at the beginning of the day, you know who didn't show up and where do I need to fill gaps. Mm-hmm. Has that worked pretty well for you, getting everyone to come? Sometimes they might be coming several hours before they're actually doing their job.
Wait, say that last part again?
Well, if you have everyone come at this, hour and a half before,
Yeah.
possibly their particular assignment doesn't happen for at least 2 hours, but you can still get them there. Generally,
Yeah, I don't know if they have been coming.
that's my main question. It
And
works.
if people show up late, they usually tell a friend, like, oh, my friend Becky is coming.
The exception might be registration, ticket pickup. You might need to get them there earlier.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just talking mainly about on-course volunteers, but but the registration and setup people.
But then what you create there is a much more team camaraderie. Meet where the food is and the coffee and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Justin's been at Traps, and don't you think, talking to the volunteers is
Well,
a good thing?
I was going to iterate that exactly, like, especially as a TD where you don't know anything, and you come in, the first thing to do is say thank you graciously to every volunteer that you meet, but also go around and meet teams, team leaders, team captains, and you create this humble sense of community. As I think about Bill Coke Festival, for instance, there are a lot of really eager parents that want to be involved, capitalizing on that and bringing them into the fold, and just even if it's something simple like, oh, would you mind help the swoon zone? I think about Bill Henchy and his hands and his kneecaps. Like that guy would just bring people in and to the end of the finish zone. There's always someone, but just humility and being gracious to your volunteers.
For new event directors and volunteer coordinators, I mean, I started a long time ago. It was the 2006 Bill Coke Festival, and I'm still learning. Like, I had great mentors, Jim Rodriguez, Bill Henchy was huge. And half the time when I was learning, I didn't realize what I didn't know, and now I know what I didn't know. Anyway, Tamara.
Another, just because you mentioned it, like if you're really stuck and how do you, fill in roles if you're short people. I think the other caution is to be careful that you're not pulling people that don't really know what is going on or what. There has been some experiences at certain places where, like, plucking a parking lot attendant or somebody and putting them on course is not necessarily going to be the most helpful because they don't really know, they don't understand what the event is even about.
Right, so to me that's the team leader has to do a good job instructing, and you put them on spectator control, you don't put them on technique control.
But if you're short,
I was going to say, sometimes, the volunteers want to do specific duties, so you don't want to just pull them, without, so, somebody who's working a venue usually knows a lot of the volunteers and who are flexible and things like that, so it probably makes it easier, who you can tag for certain roles.
I would echo Justin's comment. It is nice to have that group
And you've been
meeting.
in that position.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. But most places where you do have the volunteers together as a TD, make sure you go, and that's exactly what you do is thank them, and follow the groups, and if they have questions, or let them ask questions if they need to. Because a lot of them don't know what our role is either.
And while most of us here are coaches, I love the fact that many coaches will say to the athletes, always thank a person for volunteering. I've had kids go by while they're in the middle of racing. Thank you for coming here. They've gone by, and it means so much to the volunteers when they do that. So for coaches to reiterate that with their racers.
Carolyn.
I just was wondering whether from you or others if you have recommendations on volunteer sign up software. We've used Sign Up Genius before, but thinking about ways to streamline and make it easier for people to see the shifts they're signing up for, and then also communicating with them.
Is that a segue to you?
It could be. Yeah, it's a reasonable segue.
Okay. I'm going to segue to Fred.